Hello, it's Maria, and today we're going to be drawing a horse and a rider. First, we're going to be going over horse anatomy. A horse isn't just a sausage with four sticks coming out. If we look at the anatomy of a crawling baby, we actually see some similarities between that and a horse. What looks like a backwards knee is actually a horse's heel. That's because they have a pelvis, a knee, a heel, and toes just like us, but their bones are different sizes than ours. Their pelvis and shoulder blades also go more downwards instead of only in line with their spine like ours. Their toes are very long compared to ours, and their hooves are more like fingernails or toenails. Horses have very large rib cages, and their bodies are a long, simple shape. Also remember that their necks are very thick and get thinner closer to their head. You're going to be drawing a horse in action today. Running horses usually have 1 to 3 legs off the ground with bent joints. I strongly recommend using a reference as you draw. As always, you want to start with a very large, simple shape, just marking how much space your drawing will take up on the paper. Using a very light touch, use some simple lines to mark where the legs, the neck, the head, and the body will be. Remember that the shoulder blades go forward and the pelvis bone goes backwards. For the front arms, the elbow of the arm will be pretty close to the bottom of the body. And for the legs, the knee will be really close to the bottom of the body. Then, after you have the elbows, the wrists will go forward. And after you have the knees, the heels will go backwards. Then, the bottom parts of the arms and legs can either be straight or bent. After you have a simple skeleton with some joints and some lines, you can start beefing up the horse and giving it muscles. However, the top parts of the legs usually have much more muscle than the bottom parts. The bottom part is a little bit more skinny with the joints very visible. The top parts of a horse's limbs, like the shoulder blades of the pelvis, usually blend in with the body quite a bit, so it's harder to make out. You can still add some definition of where the shoulders and the knees are though. To draw the head, it might be easier if you think about it like an upside down cone shape. Draw a bigger circle where the brain and the eyes are, and then draw a smaller circle where the snout is, and then you can draw lines to connect them. Horses have very large cheeks, so you don't want to draw the head too skinny. Make sure you draw the eyes, the ears, the nostrils, and the mouth. A horse's ears are like small triangles that go straight up. A horse's hooves are also like small triangles at the base of the arms or legs. When your drawing is close to done, you can erase all the lines underneath that were guiding you, but you should still mark the joints a little bit because the bottom of a horse's limbs are so skinny that the joints are usually pretty visible. You don't need any detail on the body, just mark the shoulders and mark the knees. Finally, you can add whatever kind of tail or hair that you like, and you can also use whatever medium you want to color it. For more advanced students, you'll be drawing a horse with a Victorian rider. Victorian costumes were really complicated with a lot of layers, especially for women. And for women, since they had those very large, poofy dresses, it was difficult for them to ride horses. This means that they had special saddles and styles of riding that meant they had to have 2 of their legs on one side of the horse. You can imagine that it was probably pretty difficult for them to ride a horse. So today, I'm going to be drawing a Victorian woman riding a horse. First, I'm going to start with the head and a very rough shape for the body, just to mark the person in proportion to the horse. You don't want them to be too freakishly big or really small. Also, make sure to draw the headgear of the horse and the saddle so that it's possible for the person to ride it. You may need to look up a reference for that part. So now I'll be figuring out the position of the lady on the horse, keeping in mind that her body is slightly twisted. Both of her legs will be to the side, whereas her shoulders and arms will be more to the front. During this time period, they had very tight corsets and large poofy dresses. So I'm going to be making her waist pretty thin with a huge flowy dress beneath it. I'm also not bothering to add too much detail to the legs since the dress will be covering it anyway. However, you still want to suggest that there's legs underneath the dress by adding some folds that wrap around the legs. Once you mark the position of the arms that are holding the reins, you can add some more details to the costume, such as big, poofy shoulders and a poofy collar. They also had lots of interesting hats in the Victorian era. Now that my drawing's finished, I'm gonna lightly erase my lines and color it. And now, it's your turn.